Haven't seen it, you should. We got some big patch coming to PTR here. They're actually posting patch notes, which is kind of nuts. That makes me think we are actually way further along than you might expect, because I don't know when the last time they ever posted patch notes for PTR. I mean, I legitimately don't know. So a lot of stuff on here. We're not going to take too much of a look at it, but yeah, I don't know what the hell is this. I mean, is this serious? I don't know if this was like last build or something, but anyway, a bunch of changes to classes. The main thing on this patch, from the post here that Wowhead has gathered, is that potency conduits now drop in Nathria. I don't know why they didn't just make potency conduits from 5-mans actually go to 220 or something like that, whatever an appropriate eye level would be. Great Vault raid loot requirements is now 3, 6, and 9, which is actually quite generous. And then depleting a key now grants 2 items instead of 1. So a lot of people are like crying their eyes out that they're not getting enough loot. And frankly, this does make sense because, yeah, you're going to want to get loot that you can upgrade, right? So it's this is actually pretty fair, I think, allowing a second item to drop, but not actually be as good if it's a downgrade. So if it's a downgrade, so here's how it works. And I've told people, like 3 people this already, and they're like, so what, you're going to get more loot if you downgrade it? And in fact, there's people on the thread that it was posted on originally saying the same thing. You're not very intelligent, it seems, because that's not how it works. If you upgrade the key, you get 2 items. If you downgrade the key, you get 2 items. But the second item on the downgraded key is 1 step lower. So if you were doing a 15, you'd get it 1 210 and 1 207 or whatever it is. So that's kind of a big deal because I don't exactly know how the upgrading system works. There is stuff on that, but I don't really care to delve into it right now. But it's definitely going to be a bigger deal. But this is pretty cool, actually. So I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see how it's going to work when you're doing like 18s or something much higher, because I guess it's just still 1 less allocation of loot, and that's still going to exist. But like, say, you know how when you do an 18, you have a chance to get 4 items or whatever, 20% chance to get 4 items. What happens if you downgrade that 18? You have 1 207 and then still 3 chances to get 2 10s? I'm not sure they know. But anyway, the real reason we're making this video is not because of freaking Mythic Plus changes. What we're talking about here is some absolutely insane legendary changes, and I cannot wait to get my hands on these. I'm telling you right now, this is so freaking sweet, man. I can't wait. Oh yeah, so I guess all those class changes were actually relevant to this week. So it's a really big buff to Ellie Shaman. We got a dude who's like absolutely lighting the charts up as Ellie. So if they buff him, oh man. Anyway, okay, so let's talk. So some really nice changes for blood DK, for DK in general, really. Crimson Rune weapon. Now, if you don't know what that is, I actually made a video, and I'd consider my top 3 legendaries Rune weapon, Crimson Rune weapon, that is, Super Strain, and Brindors, right? We made a whole video on what I would do with all 3 of them, and I think Crimson Rune weapon is a very strong legendary, but unfortunately for what it does in 5-mans, currently, it's not great. I just don't know. There's not a great legendary for Blood DK. That's a big problem. Well, guess what? Here we go. Dancing Rune Weapon generates 5 Bone Shield charges, which is, I mean, that alone, that's a really nice change. Actually, I would rather that be what Meat Shield did, I think. But anyway, okay. When a charge of Bone Shield is consumed, the cooldown of Dancing Rune Weapon is reduced by 5 seconds. That's pretty nuts. So if you didn't see me test this legendary or talk about it extensively early in the expansion, it was basically taking about a minute off the CD. Like, yeah, it was taking like 48 to 56 seconds off when I was not in combat a bunch in between packs. If you were in combat for the full 1 minute, it would be 1 minute off. And now that is without the Tombstone talent. Okay, so I know a lot of people think this is not a serious talent, Tombstone, but consume up to 5 Bone Shield charges. 5. Where have we heard that number before? Oh right, yeah. Dancing Rune Weapon generates 5 Bone Shield charges. I don't know, man. What do you think? I could see it happening. I legitimately could. It's still gonna be way better with Necrolord. And Necrolord's getting like super buff, so it's like, oh man, dude, am I going Necro? I legitimately don't know. This is crazy. I cannot wait to see An extra 2 seconds. So if it was a minute off with 3 seconds, what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to be a minute and 20 seconds off or something? I don't exactly know the math on that, but that means it's going to be well under a minute. And that might mean I might actually be able to take Tombstone. If it's under a minute CD, and every time I pop Dancing Rune Weapon, I get 5 Bone Shield charges, and then I just consume those 5 Bone Shield charges for an immediate 25 seconds off Dancing Rune Weapon. Because you know what I mean? 5 Bone Shield charges consumed is now, instead of 13, or whatever it'd be, 15 seconds, it's now 25 seconds off. This is kind of nuts, man. I don't know. I'm sure nobody else agrees, but that seems insane to me. There's more, though. Gorfiend's Domination. Vampiric Blood generates 45 runic power and still does everything else it used to. So we tested this legendary out. I made it, and frankly, a lot of people just lied to me. In the beginning of season, there was like 2 or 3 people who came in and they're like, oh, you got to make Gorfiend's Domination, dude. It makes Vamp Blood up like 90% of the dungeon. I'm like, oh, that's pretty damn good, really. I didn't realize that. Between Red Thirst and that, I thought they would be right. I tried it. It was like 30%. It was terrible. It was horrible. It's not even close. I don't think this is still any better. But it's interesting because 45 runic power every time you pop Vamp Blood, and this is only going to get better, right? Like that part might actually be better now than reducing the cooldown on it, because that's a lot of runic power. And I mean, Vamp Blood is already going to be about a minute CD regardless, with, you know, well under a minute with this on, I'm sure. So you have Red Thirst plus this 45 runic power every minute or less. I mean, definitely less, right? That one isn't as striking as Crimson Rune Weapon to me, but it's like, that's a decent, you know, that's, you're giving it a good shot to make that a strong legendary. But then we have Vampiric Aura. Vampiric Blood grants you 5% leech, and its duration is increased by 3 seconds. Additionally, your Vampiric Blood affects all party members for 50% of the effect it has on you. So you're going to give everybody 2.5% leech on top of whatever, what would 50% of the healing be? So it's going to be 15% maximum health and like 20 I don't know, like 17% increased healing. I don't really understand how leech and Vamp Blood work together, but that's another leech CD, and its duration is increased by 3 seconds, which is also going to be transferred to the party. So that means it goes from a 12-second CD to a 15-second CD on like roughly a minute-ish CD. These are really good approaches. I'm really happy with these. They're basically just adding something to those two, or really all 3 actually, yeah. So that's like, that just tells you that like the base version of this is just not functioning well enough. I'm really happy with this. I can't wait to see it. The Crimson Rune Weapon, I literally, like, I'm going to upgrade that to rank 4 before it comes out, honestly. I was going to make some other legendaries along the way to try them out, but no, I'm just getting that thing to rank 4 as soon as I can, because I'm going to be using that. Honestly, like, come on, give me a reason why that won't be great. And like, I don't even want to hear no shit about Super Strain. That is ridiculous. If I had Dancing Rune Weapon up, even if it was every minute, like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Even if some reason I'm way off on this, Dancing Rune Weapon every single pack, how is that not great damage too? You know what I mean? Like, that's just insane. And it's only going to get better as we go, because the more haste we have, the more viable that Tombstone is. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but like, it's good, for real. The only reason I haven't like pushed harder into it, it's because it just doesn't work with Night Fae. There's no way I can generate enough Bone Shield stacks to also use Tombstone. Heartbreaker is just too important with Night Fae, and it's probably not going to change. I'll probably still not take Tombstone. But if you're not Night Fae, check this out, man. I'm telling you, it's got to be badass. Like, I'm going to level another DK on Alliance, and I'm going to check this out for sure, because this sounds just freaking ridiculous. But anyway, there's more. That's a rune carving power. That's a legendary, yeah. So this is actually an interesting legendary. They buffed it. It's not ever really going to be viable for blood, but I did use it on the beta, and it was actually really good damage, but I don't think it would be better than Super Strain. So this is another Death Dew gains 1 additional charge Wait, what is this? Creeping Decay. Oh, they just completely reworked this. Interesting. Wait, what is that? Oh, no, that's an anima power. Forget it. I'm an idiot. Here's what they changed. Rune Carving Pheromones. Okay, so now it's 10% haste. And I haven't actually crafted this, but, you know, that's not really that big of a change. But maybe the tower in place thing is still going to be valuable. I said that this was going to be like the legendary I used in 5-mans, and I think I still might use it at some point. Like, it's just now compared to some of these other ones, it's just really going to fall behind. But, you know, 10% haste while you drop D&D on top of the haste buff from D&D, and maybe that anima field emitter too. We were checking that out today on stream. Depends how good the cower in place thing is, because obviously the rest is pretty garbage. But anyway, there's some other changes here. I don't really know much about the stuff, but we'll quickly go through it. Dragon of the Darkness Flame. Your firebrand now heals you for 100% of its initial damage over 100 days, which is just far too long. I mean, that's just far too long, so I don't know about that one. But then anyway, Dark Glare Boon, which is the oh yeah, it makes it not incur its cooldown. That's right. And apparently, I don't know, Jix will comment below, I'm sure, correct me, but apparently they changed a conduit that's going to make it. Yeah, it used to be Fiery Brand's uptime was higher with the conduit. Now it's going to be Fell Devastation's uptime is higher. And they actually buffed this. Fell Devastation now has a 40% chance of not. So I'm pretty sure that's where it was on the beta when I was looking at that. Is like, wow, that is overpowered. But it also refunds 50 Fury. So we'll see what actually happens there. That sounds very fun to me. That was actually the reason you remember, I was like legitimately going to play Vengeance as my main alt. And then they nerfed that, and then everybody went like bonkers with the Elysian Decree. I was like, fuck it. I don't even want it. But anyway, that's kind of it for tanks. I think there's a Druid or a Paladin one. There's some really cool... Oh, no. There's Monk. This is really interesting. So, Mighty Pour. Celestial Brew used to increase your armor by 25% for 7 seconds. Now it increases your armor by 50% for 8 seconds. Purifying Brew also has a 35% chance to not consume a charge. I don't know why they reworded all of this, but that's a lot of armor. Okay, now we already heard people saying that this doesn't matter. Nobody would want this. The more armor in Celestial Brew doesn't matter. Irrelevant. And okay, sure, I get it. Honestly, I think the only reason that is happening is because the double Keg Smash Legendary is just so good. Like, it's just intangibly too good. They can't nerf it or buff it in some way that's ever going to make it not too good. That's just how it is. It's probably always going to be that way. But I'll tell you right now, if I was playing a Brewmaster with some of the stuff I've seen, I'd be using Mighty Pour 100%. After this buff, 100% I would be using it, because even though, you know, I don't know, like, what happens if the Celestial Brew gets taken immediately? Do you keep the 8-second 50% extra armor, or does that go away too? I don't know the answer to that. If it goes away too, then probably change my opinion. But 35% chance to not consume a Purified Brew is kind of cool too, because then that makes Celestial Brew bigger, right? Anyway, the Tiger Palm legendary Shao Might. Tiger Palm has a 40% chance, up from 10%, to deal 300% normal damage and reduce the remaining brews by 2 seconds. Now, this was a really overpowered thing in Legion, and apparently it's still not even back to where it was in Legion. I guess, I don't know, but it's interesting. I'm very interested in seeing what happens with Brewmaster Legendaries, because I don't know how. I must be missing something, but it's just hard to believe that the class is so defensively capable that they would think this is not a very let's put it this way. You know, I talked to Morgan about it. He's like, you don't need the armor because you're in the safest position you're in. Well, guess what? That's what people said about Voracious. And then new things come out, you know what I mean? Like, they buff Voracious, things change. It's like, you know, it's not always going to stay that way, where you're always comfortable every time you use Celestial Brew. There might be scenarios where that's not true. And realistically, there probably already is. You know, it depends on if it stays after Celestial Brew has been popped. So, and then there's Paladin, I think, as well. Yep. Okay, so here, Ardent Protector Sanctum used to reduce damage taken while Ardent Effector is active by 10%. And when you activate it, you also apply it to the nearest ally, which is useless, I guess. Although maybe it would have been good for tanks. But now it's when Ardent Defender saves you from death, it restores 40% additional health. And when it expires without saving you from death, you reduce its remaining cooldown to 60 seconds. I think it's a 2-minute CD. That's kind of cool. But I don't think that's probably not going to compel anyone to use it because it doesn't do damage. And that's what Prot Pally is all about. They also buffed. They also buffed of Dusk and Dawn. And I think that's legitimately it. So some big class changes. They changed this entire spell for Outlaw. It's pretty crazy. Cannot believe they're buffing Rick. Oh my god. That's a big buff. Wait, actually it's a nerf to Lava Burst. Anyway, we don't care about that. Let's see if there's any warrior things. I think there's not. Arms. Overpower, 40% chance. Doesn't look like changing something with shield wall, but I don't fully understand what. Charges. Change from none to 1 charges. They did that with Death and Decay last build too. If Whirlwind of Revenge hits 3 or more enemies, it hits them an additional 1 time for 75% of the damage. Wow. That could be really good for Prot, right? That could be really good for Prot. Top of that mastery buff, but yeah, I just can't believe this Crimson Rune buff. I would be surprised if it goes live that way. Honestly, I really would. I don't know what their... It's like they know 5 charges. Like they're like they know Tombstone... They have to know, right? Like, it's not a coincidence. They wouldn't give 5 charges. They should probably just give 3 charges or something like that. But I cannot wait to see this. If this actually goes live, God, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I look forward to hearing your thoughts.